And then suddenly, in a matter of strides, it's as if the other horses have started walking, and he's literally jogging by, as if they've just started the race. I couldn't understand it.
Hello and welcome back to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel. Andrew, what a weekend. It's going to be very difficult to wipe this smile off my face. It was just epic from moment one, from start to finish. It had everything, and we're going to talk about the weekend's racing with a view to the Cheltenham Festival. It's only 36 days away now. The nerves are there. I think I must admit, in previous years I've been more excited for the Cheltenham Festival in January and February. But that weekend has lit the spark, and I'm now zoned in on the Cheltenham Festival. I cannot wait.
Yeah, it was an absolutely brilliant weekend. But first of all, we want to thank everyone for the reaction to our preview video last week. Nearly 6,000 likes, or 6,000 views, 300 likes. I wish it was 6,000 likes. But really, we do appreciate it. And if you are enjoying this content, if you're enjoying the little dynamic between myself and Josh, be sure to hit that like button. If we can try and hit 100 likes for every video, it would help the channel so much. And obviously, if you are enjoying it long term, do go and subscribe. We've got some great Cheltenham videos hopefully lined up over the next month, a few previews, and this review hopefully might find us a few winners as well. It's one of the great months, this lead up, I think, for National Hunt fans, and the majority of people that are watching on YouTube I know are massive National Hunt fans. This is the month we want to be alive, and we want everything to go right leading up to March. The nerves are beginning to kick in, as you say, and geez, if you weren't impressed by that weekend at Leopardstown, you're in the wrong game.
Absolutely. It's one of those months where you just zone in on Cheltenham, whether you've got a full-time job or you're still a student or anything like that. I know for me especially, if we ever have revision in February, it's never a good thing because I mostly did my racing revision. So excited for the Cheltenham Festival, and I think that's what makes the Cheltenham Festival. You build it up for such a long time, and then you finally get all of your answers. So hopefully at this video we can go through the Dublin Racing Festival and find a few answers from there and take them forward to the Cheltenham Festival. Believe it or not, the Dublin Racing Festival has only produced 6 winners since its inception in 2018. Honeysuckle won the Irish Champion and then went on to win the Mares. In 2019 it was at Envoy Island and Classical Dream, and then in 2018 it was Footpad, Samcro and Relegate. So historically the Dublin Racing Festival doesn't have a great record at Cheltenham, especially the winners. Andrew, it's very difficult to imagine that this year is going to follow that path.
Yeah, I'd agree, but one thing that you have to bear in mind is, in especially the last couple of years, they've had very good ground at the Dublin Racing Festival through decent enough winters, especially on the chase track, and as a result haven't maybe gotten the consistency in form, and sometimes not even the runners have come to Dublin Racing Festival. This year, especially for Willie Mullins, he fired the majority of the big bullets and landed a fair few of them in the process. And to be honest, if we're at the end of March and only one horse from the Dublin Racing Festival has gone on to win, I think a few of us will have fairly empty pockets.
Starting off with Gaillard du Mesnil in the 2 mile 6 furlong Grade 1 novices hurdle. I'm not going to say the real name because it's far too long for this. But Andrew, I was right. I'm really happy about it. He had too much speed for them, and I think that the second, third and fourth, they all look like Bartlett types to me. I think out of the lot, I'd take Fakira. I think he'll just suit the Bartlett down to a T. He looks like he stays forever. And we've not yet seen him at 3 miles, so I think he'd be the one to take. I think Statler ran well, and I think he'll improve for the step up in trip as well, because he wouldn't rely on his turn of foot so much. But Gaillard du Mesnil, so impressive. The only thing is I was impressed with this horse, but I would never have made him 100 to 30 favourite for the Ballymore. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it does seem a very short price, I'd have said, especially given the 2 horses he's coming up against. You're looking at a shallow hurdle winner and a Lullers and Ace winner, both with pretty robust form lines. I think Stargate is obviously very well not liked by the Evan Williams team, and Blue Lord ran a solid enough race back down at 2 miles as well, and those are the horses that Brave Man's Game and Bob Ollinger have beaten respectively. I thought he did it really nicely. His jumping warmed up as the race went along. He was obviously a little keen early. He does wear that hood, and probably the step back down in trip to 2.5 miles for the Ballymore will probably suit this horse better than the 2 mile 6. But as you say, there's an awful lot of stayers in behind, and I didn't look at the race and see almost any other horse that's going to even turn up in a Ballymore, let alone have a decent chance in it. All these Albert Bartlett types. For me, it would be Statler. I thought he ran a very good race. Danny Mullins gave him a canny ride from the front, jumped pretty well on the hole as well. And I thought, just for a small bit, turning into the home straight, I thought he might have Galardaminiel on the ropes for a little bit, but he just ran out of puff. Gentleman's Game got him on the line for second. I think he's a lovely horse for Mouse Morris. Would be a little bit concerned he mightn't turn up at Cheltenham this year. There's just something at me that thinks that Mouse sometimes does that with his young horses. He's only ran twice under rules as well, so he'd be having to book an awful lot of trends if he was to go and win at Albert Bartlett. I know you're sweet on him there. You've made a competitive case. I can't see it with Fakira myself. I think he'd be outpaced under any trip. You could run him in the Dublin Marathon and he'd be outpaced at some stage and run on past beaten horses. It just seems to be the way with this horse, and I'd be a little bit dubious whether that's just going to be his style of running, and at Grade 1 level he's just going to be a bit short of the mark.
Maybe. He has won though. He's won over 2.5 miles or 2 miles 6. He just screams a Bartlett horse, because traditionally, not last year, Monkfish was an exception, but he looks an exception. We'll get onto him later. Traditionally, you need plenty of experience and great stamina, and he looks to have both of those. That's why I'll be leaning towards him. Galardaminiel, Ballymore, what do we reckon his chances are then? Brave Man's Game, I'd make Brave Man's Game favourite, even though I like Bob Ollinger for the race. Purely on form, I think Brave Man's Game has beaten 2.5 milers. I think Bob Ollinger has also beaten quicker horses. So maybe you could mark down Galardaminiel's performance based on what's he beaten speed-wise. If I was going to make a market myself, I'd probably have Brave Man's Game favourite and Bob Ollinger and Galardaminiel's second favourite joint. But for me, it's Bob Ollinger. Nothing at the moment is tempting me. I wasn't, although I thought Galardaminiel was very impressive, I'd still be backing Bob Ollinger. I think he stays, I think he's got speed, and I think he jumps well as well. So he'd be the one for me. So a very good performance for Willie Mullins. Now, Willie Mullins won the first 3 races of the Dublin Racing Festival. In fact, we'll go through it. 15 races, 9 winners, 2 second places, and 7 thirds. It is absolutely outrageous what he did this weekend. It was just everything. Every single runner he sent out looked like they had a great chance. All the shorties, the hot pot favourites won, and it was just Willie Mullins' land, wasn't it? It was Paul Townend must be pinching himself for that job. He's a brilliant jockey and he deserves it. But oh my goodness, the firepower that he's got to sit on is outrageous. And the second one is obviously Chacun, winner of the Dublin Chase. How easy does it get?
He's absolutely superb, I think. Obviously, a little bit of a disappointment to see Min underperform, and obviously we don't really know where Min's going to end up at the end of this year now. Will they call stumps for the year? Will he still turn up in a Ryanair? Hopefully that's not the last we see of him. But Chacun is absolutely electric. He's so good to jump, and this race actually took a different complexion to races he's run in before, in terms of that they went very hard early with Notebook. Then Fakir Duderie made sure to make sure it was a massive stamina test, and there was a part of me that just at 2 out I wasn't so sure how well he was going, but he absolutely winged 2 out when Paul Townend needed him, and then suddenly he came alive, and he took it up just going to the last. And that was the best final furlong at Leopardstown we've seen from Chacun. I know this time last year an awful lot of people were crabbing that they felt he was hopping up and down on the same spot when he beat Min in the race last year. Now that was run at a breakneck gallop. This one was a relatively decent gallop as well, but he hit the line so hard. Fakir Duderie and Notebook, they're very good horses. They were Grade 1 novices last year, both Grade 1 winners last year, good jumpers, and he's just put them in their place and shown them who's boss. He gets an awful lot of stick, I believe, Chacun, because this horse that's made of glass, apparently. Apart from stepping on a stone last year, he's been sound for 2 years, and we've really got to appreciate him, because you don't get to see these 2 mile chasers in Ireland especially. I know Nicky Henderson farms them out every 2 or 3 years, but these Irish 2 mile chasers are a real sight to witness, and it's a shame we weren't there to see it on the weekend, but it was so impressive, and surely to God he can finally get a bit of luck at Cheltenham and get the job done.
Fingers crossed. I'm going to be a broken man if he doesn't get there. I just want to see him around Cheltenham. And a few people have brought the fact that he's not ran there as a doubt. I don't have any problem with that. I'd have ultimate confidence backing him for the race, although he's not a great price now. And I think that the criticism that he gets is that in past runs, I don't think this one counted, but he's been weak at the line. Now that's because he wins his races between 3 furlongs out and a furlong out. By the time they come to the last furlong, the race is done. He doesn't need to be as strong, and he's put his effort in and he's won the race. Every single time I seem to watch him run, it is those 2 out and the last that he wings every time, and that's the race is in the bag then. I thought Fakir Dudery ran well in second, 33-1 cut to 14s for the Ryanair. I think he must have a big chance, and I'd love to see him go close. Min, not ideal, pulled up. Obviously, it's not ideal preparation. He's not getting any younger. I would be massively put off. Not for me. Couldn't be having him after that. It's a really, really tricky one to come back from. But we did see a mighty winner in Chacun. He's got everything. He travels supremely. His jumping is so quick, and Politolog will go hard from the front in the champion chase, and I could just see it setting or giving Chacun a lovely toe into the race, and he'll come up that hill hopefully in front. Another one that he's got, Willie Mullins, Irish Arkle, the novice equivalent, Energumene, impressive. I was impressed with him. People are saying 2 seconds quicker than Chacun. I couldn't make too much out of that. What do you think, Andrew? Yeah,
look, these times can be construed whatever way you want them to be construed. For the average man that doesn't look into times, fair enough, you get some guys that use speed figures and time figures, and fair enough to those guys, you can probably make a profit doing so. But for the average man, it doesn't mean too much. In 2 seconds, if it was 2 seconds from kind of the first fence to the line, really, Chacun was quicker from 3 out to the finish as well. So you can kind of fit your own agenda, really. If you're in an Energumene's camp, you're going to go, oh geez, 2 seconds quicker than Chacun. Probably if you're in Shishkin's camp, you're going to go, at times are a whole load of rubbish. So it's very hard to know. I was impressed with Energumene. He's obviously such a good horse to jump, and I do believe this horse probably will be best seen over 2.5 miles in the future. I just think at the moment his jumping is what's keeping him 2 miles and kind of keeping him ahead of everyone else. Real shame to see Captain Guinness come down. Not saying he would have troubled the winner, but I do think he'd have finished second. I thought he still had plenty of running left under Rachel Blackmore. My only worry with Energumene is I do believe the race on Saturday just fell apart in behind. You think of Captain Guinness falling. Felix Deji and Darver Star just never raised a gallop whatsoever. Franco de Port made a near race-ending mistake at the second away from the stands, and Black Bow's third, who's inconsistent at the best of times. I just wouldn't be sure about the form of that race, and I solely say that because I know some people tell me that Shishkin isn't beating anything, and I'm there going, well, fair enough, you can make that point, but if you're making that point, you've got to make the point that the race did fall apart behind Energumene. I know Franco de Port won the race at Christmas, but he made such a bad mistake. He ran a remarkable race to finish where he is, and he might have an each-way chance if they stepped him up to a marsh. I think he needs 2.5 miles, personally speaking. He might be a Mullins horse for that race. But Energumene, very good. He's got a big task on his hands with Shishkin, but he's well entitled to go there and have a massive chance, and he deserves certainly to be second favourite in the book.
I definitely agree. He does deserve to be second favourite, but the thing that caught my eye is Shishkin is now a slightly bigger price. Although it's borderline backable, I think he's just under even money. I really think Shishkin's something special, and although Energumene was impressive, there's no doubt about it. You've got to look at how the race is going to be run. All Mankind is going to go off like an absolute train. Hopefully he wins the race at Warwick and is all well, and then comes to Cheltenham, and it could be a fascinating watch. But All Mankind's going to go off like a train. Energumene, I don't think I wouldn't have a problem with him sulking or anything like that. I don't think he'd mind dropping into second, but it's not ideal. Ultimately, when Paul Townend can dictate the pace on a race, that's far better for the horse's chances. But he's not going to have that privilege. All Mankind's going to go hard. I think Energumene is going to join him about 4 or 3 out and try and take him on a bit like Goshen last year. And I can just see that setting it up for Nico de Boinville and Shishkin, waiting, and a bit like Altior with his sort of kick, jumping the last, how could just see Shishkin doing the job then? And for me, I'm a massive fan of Shishkin, and there might be a bit of bias, but I just can't see a Nurgamin beating him. I really can't. I don't know where the improvement comes from for him to do so. We'll move on to the next race because I want to talk about this one. The 2 mile handicap chase. Who won this one, Andrew?
I believe A Wave of the Sea. I wouldn't know who backed it though. Jeez.
No. Can anyone tell? I put my hands up. I backed it. I finally had a big price winner, a 14-1. Very happy with that. Got the job done. The horse I really like taking out of it is Ante-Post for the Grand Annual. I think he's currently 18-1 with Bet365. I think he's 14-1 in places. I think with non-runner no bet, 14-1. And he's just one of these horses that is finishing consistently in good races. I think there is a bigger plan with him, and I think the Grand Annual is that bigger plan. JP loves winning the race, and hopefully Joseph O'Brien has got Ante-Post ready for it. And 18-1, I think he'd be one I'd be taking out of that. Is there anything you take out of it, or do you think Ante-Post was eye-catching enough?
He was eye-catching. The only thing I'd be a little bit concerned about Ante-Post is his only win has come on good enough ground. I'm just not sure you're going to get good ground come the festival. Like, if it was one of those years it came up good to soft, he'd have a grand chance. But I don't know with Ante-Post whether he's being laid out for a massive big plot at some stage, being the Grand Annual, or whether he's just one of these frustrating horses that keeps knocking on the door and nobody's home. One I would just bear in mind, a type of horse that could run in a Brown Advisory or a Coral Cup or something like that, because he has mixed it, is the Shunter. He ran a very, very strange race. I thought they tried to make all with him, because I think 2 miles is a bit sharp for him. He was then very much outpaced at around 2 out before storming home. You would have thought turning in he'd have finished 7th or 8th. I know Davy Russell said on RTE he thought that he was going to weaken into the also rans, but he absolutely stormed home, ended up finishing 3rd. Step up in trip. As I say, he won the Greatwood Hurdle at Cheltenham at the November meeting, so you know he goes well at the track. Wouldn't surprise me if he was to run in either a Coral Cup over hurdles over 2.5 or the Brown Advisory over 2.5 over fences. I think he'd go close in either. And we move on to the Irish Champion Hurdle, another star performance, but funnily enough not trained by Willie Mullins, almost the only one that wasn't, with Honeysuckle winning the Irish Champion Hurdle. She won the race last year. She won the race less impressively, let's just put it that way. Last year she somewhat fell in. There was certainly no falling in this year. She jumped slick. She really travelled all over these, and Rachel Blackmore gave her a fantastically positive ride. Josh, if I was to put it to you now, I know she's 5-2. I think favourite now. She's moved Epatante from top of the perch of the Champion Hurdle betting. If you were to have your own home grounder of Epatante for Nicky Henderson or the away team of Honeysuckle, who would you be taking?
Always love an away day. I think it'd be Honeysuckle. I just thought she was in a league of her own. She jumped a lot better than she usually does over 2 miles. And Rachel Blackmore, you've got to give her props. The race-winning move was down the back straight. She nicked 3 or 4 lengths off them behind and went to the front, kicked on, and she wasn't going to be caught due to her stamina. The mare's allowance, the £7 mare's allowance, I don't see how a gelding can beat either Epatante or Honeysuckle. I think they are in a league of their own. And for me, she's starting to come into the bracket of Epatante, of Apple's Jade, of Annie Power, those mares that can just mop up, well not mop up, but go against the boys and give them a real grilling. She stays, she jumps well, she's got form around Cheltenham. This is a big point as well. I take nothing away from Aidan Coleman, but I've said this a few times this year. I think this year, more than ever, we are going to appreciate Barry Geraghty, and I think that he gets on so well with Epatante, and he's a brilliant jockey at getting horses to ping hurdles. Especially, you've got to look at Bouvier, and he's just a fantastic jockey at doing that, judging the pace perfectly. And I'm so happy she's running in the Champion Hurdle, because they could have easily gone to the Mayor's Hurdle, probably won a Grade 1 at the Cheltenham Festival. Whoopie-doo. But ultimately, if you can win a better race, a championship race, why not go for that? And I'm so happy they are. Andrew, you finally were on the right side of her. Do you think that she can win a Champion Hurdle?
Yeah, I think based off that performance on Saturday, you'd be hard pressed to think that she couldn't. Now, I do warn people, obviously, because with my record with the likes of Honeysuckle and with Apple's Jade in years gone by, that if I back her for the champion herd, if I put my hard earns on at 5-2, she'll get turned over. But she's absolutely superb, and I suppose I've been one of the ones that's been more sceptical of her in times gone by. I frequently say that, and I say it because I think it's fair for people to change your opinion on horses. I think sometimes you've got to adapt and got to be proven wrong. Sometimes you're proven right, and I've been proven wrong by this mare. I thought that she was vulnerable over 2 miles. I didn't think she jumped slick enough, but it was like watching a new horse, to be honest, on Saturday, the way she travelled through the race. And I just think it's a fairly bang average bunch of geldings in this champion hurdle division at the moment. And Epatant's coming in off a less than an ideal prep, getting beaten in the Christmas hurdle. I know she's much better than that. She's probably a stone better than that performance, but she'll need to be, because she's going to get no weight off Honeysuckle, and that's the main thing. I think the connections of Honeysuckle have done it superbly. You know, they went and they got their grade 1 last year in the mares hurdle, but they're not sticking by it. They're not going, oh geez, we could sweep the mares hurdle for years. They're taking the decision, we've gotten our Cheltenham winner, we're really happy with that, and let's now throw her in where it matters. And I'd absolutely love her to go and do it. Kenny Alexander, one of the big supporters of the games, and one of the big supporters of the mares programme as well, which is so imperative in these times. And it would be fantastic if he got the rewards he deserves, and Henry de Bromhead and Rachel Blackmore deserve, with this superstar mare, and for her to go and win the champion hurdle.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. The 2 mile handicap hurdle, the only one I take out of it was Saint Deroux, which I backed to finish third. I do think there's a big handicap in him, and I think he'd sneak into the county hurdle off a really low weight, so he'd be one for me. Anything that caught your eye on that or not?
No, not particularly. One I would just keep the right side of, whether it's at Cheltenham or whether it's at one of the, Ferry Houses or Punchestown's. A horse called Gabby Nacco for Gavin Cromwell made a bad mistake.
Step
early.
Up and trip.
Yeah, needs 2.5 miles. Good form behind Bob Ollinger, 2 starts back. As I say, made a bad mistake at the second, was on the back foot all the way, got an easy enough time of things, finished mid-div. Wouldn't surprise me at all. If he rocked up in a Coral Cup, I'd give him an each-way chance. I think they might run, Gavin Cromwell had Alpha Mix running that race and run well in that race last year. He'd be a 25-1 shot for the race. He wouldn't be without a squeak.
If you've watched Racing Central, the channel that we had before, it's still this channel, but we rebranded it. You'd be familiar with when we hold the horse like this and just let them go. And I think this was a prime example. It originated from some Saint Roir on the county hurdle and Barry Geraghty holding up to the last and letting me go after. And Kilcruit, it just reminded me of that. Except from the thing is, Paddy Mullins didn't even have to let him go. He just won the race. I've never seen something like it. How do you describe that? Very hard to. I was sitting there watching it. I actually wasn't sure whether I was kind of watching the TV correctly or whether I had kind of crust in my eye or something. Because they went a ferocious gallop. Let's be clear about it. Very good horse, very good yardstick at that. And Ramillies, who obviously won so impressively and came with a tall reputation, he won very impressively at Christmas time. They turned into the straight. Ramillies looks to be travelling well. And you're there going, is Kilcruit going that well? And then suddenly, in a matter of strides, it's as if the other horses have started walking, and he's literally jogging by, as if they've just started the race. I couldn't understand it. It's one of those... it actually flabbergasted me so much that I'm not sure to believe it or not. I don't know. Like, based off this is one of the best bumper performances we've seen in years, in centuries of years. Is it that good? Potentially it is. He's now 6-4 for the bumper. I don't know, I couldn't put, as much as maybe I probably wouldn't back him at 6-4 myself, I couldn't put people off him at the same stage. I wouldn't be actively laying him. He's just won the strongest bumper in Ireland by quite a while, by 15 lengths, at an absolute hack. He'd have done more exercise coming out of the stable that morning than he did running past those horses, and they were quality horses at that. So I don't know what to make of it. Josh, can you put it even into words? It's going to be a fascinating clash with Sir Gerhard in the champion bumper. There's plenty of others in there that look really, really good. But Sir Gerhard unbeaten, didn't run at the weekend, due to his foot infection or leg infection. He'll run at Cheltenham. I don't think that'd be a massive concern, and it's going to be an absolute clash. So Gerhard seems like more of a grinder, whether at Kilcruit, it's as sexy as a horse you can be at this stage of its career. It'd be very interesting. Which one would you be picking at this stage, Kilcruit or Gerhard, if you had to make the decision now?
If you were probably to pin me down just on recency bias almost, I'd be going with Kilcruit myself, but it's so hard to know how good Sir Gerhard is. I don't think we've gotten to the bottom of him whatsoever, so it'll be interesting to see the two of them. Hopefully the two of them get there and we can have the burn-up we want. And obviously, especially even with Grandgy winning the Mayor's Bumper, who I'm sure we'll touch on slightly, it does really frank that Eileen Dover for Pam Sly. I know she mightn't run in the race, but she looks some decent mare now. I know, obviously not from the most fashionable of connections, but wouldn't be one to just completely rule out if she was to turn up, and she'd obviously be getting the £7 allowance. She
looks like she's going to the Aintree Bumper, doesn't she? She'll probably win that, so one to keep on the right side for them.
Yeah, anyway, moving on to day 2. We've got started off with the Mayor's Handicap Hurdle. Bit of a tricky race, to be honest. I know you were on your knees having put up Global Equity, surging at the line, surging, but didn't get there.
It hurts already. 25 to 1 the night before, goes into 9 to 1. I thought, here we go, I've worked it out, cracked the code, jumps the last a couple of lengths down and then flies home. She almost made so much ground up after the last. I thought she'd just simply go past Heaven Help Us, but she seemed to not want to put her head in front, and it was absolutely gutting. 10 more yards, and I think she'd have won the race. 25 to 1, that would have been absolutely lovely. The 2 mile spring juvenile hurdle, grade 1, Quilixios, very impressive visually, and the form on face value looks good. He beat the horses that Zanahiyr won by slightly further. But listening to Gordon's comments after, and Jack Kennedy's, there's no doubt in their minds who they think is the better between him and Zanahiyr, and it is Zanahiyr. And we touched on it when we previewed the race, that Gordon thinks that Quilixios is probably a horse for the future, whether Zanahiyr is the Triumph Hurdle horse of this year. So although I do think Quilixios is a very good horse, and he's rightfully second favourite for the Triumph Hurdle now, and I think in any other year he would be favourite and a really fancied favourite. Zanahiyr looks and the vibes are that he's just in a different league.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't massively keen on this performance from Quilixios myself. I know a lot of people were saying that he'll come on for the run, obviously his first run since November time when he won Up and Down Royal, but I thought when he went past St. Sam that he was going to really go past, and actually at the line St. Sam was cutting him back, which I didn't think was a good sign at all. A lot of people were saying there was a lot under the bonnet. Jeez, I must have been watching a different race to those people. I thought he was really out in his feet at the end of the race. And another one of these races that fell apart in behind. Humdor didn't jump a twig all the way round and ran no sort of race. And Hador, also well fancied for Willie Mullins, pulled like a 6 furlong horse before weakening very rapidly out of the race. St. Sam ran a grand old race from the front. He's the type of horse that might run well in a Boodles handicap, but I don't know, I wasn't overly impressed. And then you add on top of that what Gordon Elliott's saying about Zanahiyr, and it'd be hard pressed to put your hard earns on Quilixios at 6 to 1 at only double the price. Zanahiyr is still available at 11 to 4, 3 to 1. That looks a fair bit better from my perspective anyway than taking sixes on a horse that I do somewhat believe is only 6 to 1 because he's in the Cheveley Park Silks.
It'd be interesting to see, could they run in a Supreme Novice Hurdle with him? I know 4-year-olds don't have a bad record in the race, and they might split them up. I can't see that happening. I think the vibes were he's going to go to the Triumph. It's going to be a fascinating clash. The Chanel Palmer Novices Hurdle, 2 years in a row we get our Appreciate It moment. He wins a Grade 1, another Grade 1 over hurdles, backing his win at Christmas up. Supreme winner. I cannot see past him. Nothing in the race looks, nothing in the betting looks good enough to beat him. Messier runs the Betfair Hurdle this weekend. It's going to be interesting to see what he does, but I'm not a massive fan. And I think that Tolworth has chucked up some poor winners in the last couple of years. So I wouldn't be taking that form too strong. Appreciate It. Blimey.
Oh,
He's big. He's going to make an outrageous chaser.
Yeah, no, he was absolutely superb again. I think he's a little bit of a grinder. Like Willie Mullins has had sexier 2-mile novice hurdlers in the past, and as a result, I can see why people are trying to take him on. But I just look at the Supreme betting; it is absolutely pants. Like the standard of opposition. If you really think Ballyadam's going to reverse the form of the Appreciated, you watched a completely different race to me. Ballyadam can't jump at all, especially under pressure. But his jumping is poor to start with, let alone under pressure. And he doesn't find much off the bridle. And
no.
Unfortunately, Ballyadam was a victim of an awful lot of early hype. He won a Down Patrick bumper. Now, obviously, if you're over in England or you don't know Ireland that well, like Down Patrick's a lovely course and lovely people run it, but it'd be like winning a bumper at Stratford, like by 17 lengths, and people there going, "This is the best horse we've ever." This horse is actually better than the Ballymore winner Envoilin. I don't know what was going on. It was like, and this is something that people do need to bear in mind with these Cheveley Park horses. Like Cheveley Park have had an awful lot of good success at an early stage in their national hunt careers. They've got an awful lot of really good horses, but just because a horse is wearing the Cheveley Park silks doesn't mean it is unbeatable. And I think people had that in their mind with Ballyadam, that just suddenly it was Gordon Elliott, novice hurdle, Cheveley Park, he's as good as Envoilin. There's not very many, if any, horses in training as good as Envoilin. You've got to bear that in mind. Ballyadam's a lovely horse. He'll win his Grade 1s in time. He already has won the Royal Bond. He is a lovely horse. But he's still just lacking professionalism at this early stage of his career, and he will need to sharpen that up in years to come if he wants to be a Cheltenham Festival winner in my book.
He's certainly not got the Andrew Blair White approval. I think a step up in trip might suit him, and it could bring some improvement, but I still can't see him winning a Ballymore. A horse that is pushing Envar Allen as the most exciting horse either side of the water is Monkfish. My goodness, what a performance in the Flogas. He jumps so well, he looks so straightforward, he knows his job, he always meets the fence on the right stride, and he makes it look so easy. He beat Latest Exhibition. What was your thoughts on your boy?
Yeah, it's a real devastating watching Latest Exhibition at the moment. Now I know firsthand what Sizing John's connections must have been like when they just kept running into Duvan. And you're there just knocking your head off a brick wall. It's never going to happen. Like, you do need the horse to fall almost, which is a terrible thing. You don't want that to happen. Monkfish is absolutely superb. I don't think Latest Exhibition ran completely to form, to be fair. I thought he was a bit behind the bridle all the way. Maybe the step down to 2 mile 5 somewhat caught him out. I know they also like really kind of decent enough ground for Latest Exhibition, but like, I think his day potentially to beat Monkfish was probably at Christmas, and he didn't get the job done, and Monkfish just looks to be the superior horse, much to my own disappointment.
I can't see him reversing the form. If you owned a Latest Exhibition, would you send him for the National Hunt Chase?
Not in the slightest bit. I see this has been gone around a few times, and again, no discredit to the National Hunt Chase. There's been plenty of good horses that have run in it, but Latest Exhibition's too classy to be running in a National Hunt Chase. A horse that genuinely, like, I think an awful lot of people could accept would potentially finish second in the RSA. I can't see him out of the 3, certainly. Like, this is a horse that in his life hasn't finished out of the first 2 in all of his career starts. So that's some achievement. And I wouldn't see that booked, beginning to fade in an RSA. And you can't be afraid of just the one horse. What happens if Monkfish, has a Chacun Poursoir moment? He's standing on a stone, the day of the race, and you've run in the National Hunt Chase. Like, it seems such a devastating way to potentially miss out on it. I think you've just got to take your medicine this year with Monkfish, and then really, really try to avoid him next year. Try to find any Grade 1 you can where Monkfish or Envoilin isn't there, because that's going to be a tricky task. But he's a lovely horse. He's a proper Grade 1 horse. And as a result, I'd be a little bit disappointed if they went down the National Hunt Chase, a race that in recent years has been more synonymous with, I suppose, staying handicappers rather than proper Grade 1, Gold Cup horses. I know Native River ran in the race and Manila Rocco ran in the race and stuff like that, but they were exceptions really to the rule. And I would like to see him in the RSA, but I do think he is well up against it. Moving on, though, the horses he's probably going to have to face next year, the Irish Gold Cup, the boys in Kemboy, Gelta Work, they're absolute lads. They must be just at the start going, you again, happy days. They face each other so many times. Funny race, I thought. I thought they gave Kemboy a bit of a freebie out in front. Manila Indo didn't seem to jump with much fluency. And you look at that race and go that there wasn't really a Gold Cup winner in sight. What were your thoughts?
No, the fact that they're going to send, there's a high chance they could send Kemboy to the Stayers Hurdle tells you as much as you need to know about this race. Delta Work was disappointing. I thought for a stage he might pick up, but he didn't. Manila Indo was mightily disappointing. I've never been a huge fan. I think looking back on his form, I'm not convinced he's beaten. I don't think his form is great. I think the best form he's got is second in the RSA behind Champ. But then again, Allaho, is he a 3-miler? If you look at the horses that he's beaten, I couldn't name one horse that's finished second that would give any of these in this race much to worry about. So it was a step up for him. Obviously, we knew that going into it, and he didn't deliver. Kemboy, we touched on this in the preview. It's a bit about, it's a great performance, a great ride, and an advantageous ride. But freebie from the front, you can't give Kemboy, a horse who loves Leopardstown, that freebie. And unfortunately, they paid for it, and it was a race that be probably the only Grade 1 this over the weekend that I was a bit disappointed after. Not because I didn't back the winner or anything like that, but because the horses that finished up there probably won't feature in a Gold Cup at Cheltenham. And given the name of the race, the Irish Gold Cup, you'd have liked to have seen them do so. But yeah, slightly disappointing. Andrew, the last two races we could touch on, have you got anything for them or not?
No, not particularly. Look, the mare's bumper, I'm sure there's plenty of good mares in there. I'd certainly be given other chances, to the likes of Brandy Love and Take Tea and those types of mares, but there didn't look to be any sort of champion bumper horse in there. That being said, the main man behind the Syndicates Racing, Jack Cantillon, sold me a complete pup last night. I don't know whether you saw his tweet. He said immediately after the race that Grangie had been retired and was being sent to stud. And I fell hook, line and sinker for it. I thought that was true, but apparently it was a complete joke, and the horse will run in the champion bumper. So I was completely duped. But look, she did it well, but she'd have a fair bit to find. And, she couldn't even get the job done at Market Raisin in that listed bumper. You'd think she wouldn't be up to winning a champion bumper. That being said, Relegate won the race 2 years ago and went on to win the champion bumper at 25-1.
There you go. Anything can happen. Wouldn't be for me, though. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you did enjoy the weekend's racing. It was absolutely brilliant. And a masterclass by Willie Mullins. If you told me a year ago that Appreciate It would be his 2-mile novice hurdle horse for this year, obviously he's had to adapt to the fact that Fernie Hollow was injured, but the fact that he is so adaptable as a trainer, and he can make Gellard de Menil, who's got plenty of gears, the stayer, Appreciate It, the 2-mile horse. I think you just have to take your hat off to him, and it's time and time again that he does it, and that's what makes him the best in the business, and he showed that this weekend. What a phenomenal training performance. Thank you very much for watching. If you do like it, please hit that like button. It really does help, and it really does support the channel. Thank you very much. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully we'll see you. In fact, I'll put it to you, those who've made it this far. Would you like to see a weekend preview or a Cheltenham handicap video up next? We're unsure which one to make. We'd like to preview the racing at the weekend. It's obviously good stuff, but we'd also like to have a proper in-depth view at some of the handicaps at the Cheltenham Festival. So let us know, and we will do that accordingly.